Hi, everyone, and welcome to Stress Relief. My name's Dr. Ellen Contenti. I'm the founder of Heart Centered Programs, and I am a Stress Master licensed facilitator. So, this is Stress Awareness Month, and so I wanted to take this opportunity to put together a little video webinar on stress relief, a little bit about the program, and to give you some tips. So, let's go ahead and get started. So one of the things that I think is really fun whenever you're doing an online event is to do an icebreaker. So here's my icebreaker for everyone. Create a caption for this adorable picture. So these are actually two out of my three cats. That is Oreo in the basket, and that is Blue, who's standing in front of it. So what would be a great caption for this? I actually ran this as a contest in, I think it was Facebook or Instagram a while back. And I got some really fun responses on this one. So go ahead and just, if you're watching live, put it in the chat. If you're watching the recording, just think about what would put a smile on your face. So just looking at this puts a huge smile on my face. And hint, hint, that's actually a stress relief tip. Find the things that make you smile. And pet therapy is also something that is prescribed for people that are dealing with stress or dealing with depression. So during Stress Awareness Month, it's important to find those things that you know will help you feel more calm and relaxed. And anytime I spend time with my kitties, I absolutely do. And this actually is in my office. Even though they're not supposed to be in my office sometimes, I'll put the basket in there and let them hang out. So one of my favorite captions for this one is, hey, you've been in there a really long time. It's my turn. Or my other favorite one is, aren't we cute? Because we are. They really are adorable. And for all you dog lovers out there, I'm also a dog lover. I had a dog for many, many years. So whatever your pet choice is, or maybe it's no pets, and that's perfectly okay too, because they do require some time and attention. And that can be stressful. So let's see if you can relate to this picture. Okay. Is this you? Is this you? So let's go ahead. I have a poll that I created for this. Not sure if it's going to work if we're just doing a recording, but we'll try. We'll definitely try. I'll launch the poll and we'll see. Um, so are world events impacting your stress level? Because I really do want to get a sense from people, if that's the case. I mean, it seems like you turn the news on every day and there's something going on that's very stressful. So go ahead. And again, if you're just watching the recording, just make a mental note of those things that are creating stress for you. And, how would you rate your stress level? Is it considered, high or higher than you'd like? Is it average, or is it pretty low? And of course, if it's low, that means you're doing some pretty good things right now. But I'm a firm believer in we could never have enough tools in our stress relief toolkit. So if this is you, if you can relate to this, then you obviously need to understand what are some of the things that trigger your stress. So we're going to take a look at that next. And again, I love this little picture. I don't remember where I found that, but I was like, yeah, I can relate to that. I can absolutely relate to that. I'm not losing stripes, but I'm definitely losing hair. I'm really stressed. So let's look at the things that actually trigger stress. So deadlines, whether you are working full-time, part-time, or you've got some things like, tax deadline is literally right around the corner, depending on when you're watching this. Today is the 12th of April. So for many people, right, that deadline in and of itself can be very stressful. What about, just having too much on your plate? Many people can recognize, this overwhelm, the overload, too much work, or maybe we've got a good handle on work, but we've got too many home projects. Maybe we've got a good handle on that, but we're very involved in our spiritual centers and it feels overloaded there. So just having more than you can handle. The next one is something many of us can also relate to today: inflation, high prices, or what's the term? Excuse me, as my nose is a little runny today. The term where you go to the supermarket or the store, the price hasn't gone up, but the size has gone down. So you're still paying more for the same product. So I feel like every time I go, I get less and less for the same amount of money. Also, Triggers to our stress are relationships. So every one of us is in at least one relationship, whether that's, being married or having a partner. Maybe it's children or parents or our colleagues or classmates or the people that we serve with, again, at a spiritual center. It could be our neighbors. So we have many different relationships. And if we have some conflict in any of them, of course, it's going to trigger stress. And then I throw on one last one here, which was my number one stressor when I lived in California, which is traffic. Now I'm living in North Carolina. Actually, I'm on the coast in Wilmington, and the traffic just seems to get worse and worse. And the nicer the weather is, the more people come, so there's more traffic. So you can't escape it. So I want you to just think for yourself, right? Of all these different triggers, right? Which one is your number one? And maybe it's not even listed there. There could be other things that are creating stress for you. It could just be your own internal thought process. Because the truth is, it's not the things out there that are creating stress. It's how I think about it. It's what are the stories that I'm telling myself about these things. So we all have deadlines. Everything, well, not everything, but most things have to be done by a certain time. And so, if we procrastinated on getting that done, if we're dealing with perfectionism, which is more of an internal, and that's, stopped us or we're stuck because it's not good enough, right? So now we're bumping up against a deadline. And of course, that's creating more stress. So, when I tell myself, oh my God, I'm never going to get this done, right? And, that work just piles up. That creates the stress, not the work, right? The fact that I keep telling myself, oh my God, I'm not going to get this done. Or traffic, the more I would be stuck in traffic, the more stressed I'd get. And I recognize that I could be stuck in traffic on a Saturday or I could be stuck in traffic on a Tuesday. What was the difference in my stress level? And I realized it was, number one, was I trying to get somewhere by a certain time? So there's that deadline. And what was I telling myself about it? So the more I told myself, again, oh my God, I'm never going to get there on time, or this traffic sucks. I hate it. I can't believe I should have taken that highway or that highway. No matter which highway you're on or what street you're on, you're sure you took the wrong one. So the stories you tell yourself are creating the stress. And so I saw that if I was in traffic, I didn't have a deadline, like I didn't have to be there by a certain time. I was enjoying music or a podcast. You know what? It wasn't so bad. It wasn't creating the same amount of stress. And in some cases, no stress. So our goal is to learn how to identify the triggers that we have and learn how to override them. Like, how do I override that trigger? So again, it doesn't pull the trigger and I don't have to have that chronic stressed experience or life or lifestyle. So what happens when we are experiencing stress? Well, once again, our bodies are amazing. They are really, truly amazing. And when your mind sends a signal that says, oh my God, I'm never going to get there on time, or how am I going to get this work done? Your body goes right into action. It says, okay, we need to help you get this done. So adrenaline, cortisol, right? Stress hormones actually get released into our bodies, into the bloodstream to help prepare us to get it done. So your heart starts racing. And I've experienced this, and I'm sure everybody else has, I can literally feel my heart racing. I can feel myself getting, hot and sweaty because of the blood flow. Our sugar levels go up, our pupils dilated, our blood pressure goes up. And what happens in our intestinal area, you can't see me, I'm kind of moving my hand across my stomach. Many times when people are dealing with stress, they have, intestinal issues like running to the bathroom or having cramps or have a stomach ache. I used to get really bad stomach aches when I was much younger, and I didn't know what it was or what it was from. And I realize now, obviously, that it had a lot to do with stress and what was going on in my household at the time. Was not able to make that connection until much later in life. So if you've got young children that are dealing with some of these signs and symptoms, and there's some conflict going on in a relationship in the family, it could be because of that. So everybody responds differently to stress. And I will say that it is actually an individual response. Even though the body is releasing adrenaline, cortisol, how quickly, how often, how much has a lot to do with how that individual is processing that event, that circumstance, that situation. But it is obviously really important to recognize those changes that are happening when they're happening. It typically takes about 90 minutes from the initial response to when the body resets itself to, literally complete what's called a stress cycle. However, most of us don't have 90 minutes to complete a stress cycle because we're dealing with the next thing and then the next thing and then the next thing. And so we end up being in this chronic stressed state. And so at the end of the day, we feel like, we've literally been hit by a truck, as my mom used to say. So we want to look at ways that we can identify our own stress signs and symptoms when they happen. So if this is you under stress, right? And, I have another poll. I'll go ahead and launch that, at least just so we can take a look at the questions on there, especially if you're watching this, as a recording. So where's my polls? There we go. Let's go to the next one. And bear with me, stop sharing, go to the next one. For some reason, I'm not getting, oh, maybe I need to go back there. There we go. That's the thing that you love, right? When you're doing something. So stress signs. When I'm stressed, again, you would fill this out. You can go ahead and just think about it. What do you do when you're stressed? What are your own personal stress responses? Do you stress eat? Like, do you eat more? I'm definitely a stress eater. I can find myself with my hand in a bag of chips or cookies or whatever it is. I'm not really hungry. It's called eating from the neck up when you're doing stress eating. When you're stressed, are you irritable? Do you get short and snappy or short tempered with people? That's also one of my stress signs. Do you take a break? Are you one of those wise people that know, hey, I'm really struggling. I just need to take a break here. That's a really positive way to respond to stress. Some people just power through. It's like, I just got to get this done. I just got to get it done. I'm just going to power through. Not necessarily a good thing, not necessarily a bad thing. It all depends. I'll talk more about that. And then, there are other signs, ways that we handle that. So when we start talking about stress signs, stress symptoms, I want you to be thinking about what happens to me physically, emotionally, mentally, and, even behaviorally or spiritually as well. So do I get headaches? Do I find my body just filled with tension, right? Stomach aches? Am I having trouble sleeping? When we're stressed, it tends to hit what's called the three pillars: diet, exercise, and sleep. Or I would say lack of exercise for most people. Though there are a few people that respond to stress by over exercising, trying to run off the stress, for example. Once again, exercise isn't bad, but you need to recognize, am I using it in a supportive way to manage stress, or am I using it to escape my stress? And that's kind of what happens too when we stress eat or drink or shop or do those things that we recognize are just an escapism from the stress. We're trying to cope. It works well in the short term. However, it does create additional problems. So look at how your physical symptoms show up, your cognitive symptoms, like when you have, fuzzy thinking, or you can't concentrate, having a hard time remembering things, or you just stared at the screen for however long and, you're just not getting anywhere. I've also recognized if I've like read something 3 times and like, I can't retain what I read. I know it's time for the break. Again, being more emotional or more withdrawn is another sign. And then, when our behaviors change from what we normally do, again, it could be a sign that we're dealing with a lot of stress. The way I like to also explain it to people is, imagine, you're driving down the street. We're all so busy. We just want to get that green light because we don't have time to stop. Any one of you have like extra time? Most of us don't. So we want the green light. But up ahead, we see that the light is flashing yellow, right? It's flashing yellow and it's a warning sign that you need to be prepared to stop. Another way to think about it, again, since we're talking about, cars or driving, your car is always flashing signs at you when something needs to be taken care of. Whether it's the gas gauge, that's flashing. I know my husband's car, it says, 32 miles left before you need to get gas or whatever it is. Or, check engine light or low tire pressure. If we ignore those signs, we run into problems. We run out of gas, we get a flat tire, we could blow our engines, and I've run out of gas in the middle of the desert, no exaggeration, and we waited like 4 hours for someone to come rescue us. So you don't want to ignore these warning signs because chronic stress can lead to catastrophic health problems. And I don't mean to scare people, but I know a handful of people who have been out of work due to burnout, who've ended up in the hospital, at the far extreme end, obviously. But even just trying to live our lives in the less optimal way is no way to live. And I'm a firm believer in, we should be enjoying our lives. So let's get into, some of the warning signs. I just went through stress signs and symptoms, recognizing when I'm under stress. But now what we're going to talk about is what are some of the specific areas of my life that I should be paying attention to that are trying to tell me that I'm at a higher risk for developing stress. All right. And these are the things that I cover in the Stress Mastery program. So the first one is, two came up at once. The first one is being angry or having a lot of anger or hostility in my life. So, there are some people out there that do struggle, with anger. They're quick to anger. They're very frustrated. And think about it. When you are frustrated about something, it creates a lot of stress, or it definitely creates that stress response. And, when we are feeling angry or irritable, we become impatient with other people and with ourselves as well. And it could manifest in verbal outbursts. It could manifest in physical tension in the body, or even just, hostility directed outwards at other people. So if you are quick to anger, then this is a warning sign, again, for you to be paying attention to. There's actually 7 different warning signs. So let's take a look at the next one. This one I think a lot of people deal with, and that's that time urgency, which is that need to rush. I got to get somewhere. I got to get this done. I'm running late. The person that's always in a hurry, always running late, always, and I'm like doing that kind of move because it feels like that in your body. Rush, 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 rush. It's just overwhelming and very quick to burn out when you're in this particular stage. This is classic of a type A personality, but there are some of us type Bs that also kind of fall prey to that, or that is one of our warning signs. Perfectionism. I mentioned that on the previous slide. Because many people that deal with perfectionism, like it's never good enough. It's just never good enough. And so it can stop you from finishing things. It could stop you from starting things because you're so afraid it's never going to be good enough. And it also places a very high demand on other people, which not only creates stress for them, but of course it's stressful for you because you feel like you can't trust other people to do a good job. And you also then take on more work than you need to do. It's hard to delegate when you're a perfectionist. So if this is you, then you're, again, putting yourself at a higher risk for stress. So let's look at the fourth one. So disappointment, that's interesting. You're probably thinking, what is being disappointment and how does that, have to do with stress? Well, the disappointment scale assesses, the level of personal disappointment that you may have in your job or your life or even your relationships. Maybe things just, haven't turned out the way you expected or you hoped. And, there's obviously a frustration factor in that. There could be an aspect of sadness in that. I know I've gone through bouts of disappointment in my life over the years, relationships not working out the way I thought, jobs not working out the way I thought, even projects, not working out the way I thought. So when we are disappointed, we are generally just discouraged. And when we're discouraged, it also stops us from taking positive steps. So again, these are risk factors for stress. Then we have something called underachievement. And I know a lot of these, are not classic things that most people talk about when it comes to stress. But, if you score high on this particular scale, being an underachiever, once again, you're feeling a bit disappointed in what you've accomplished in your life. You haven't attained the things that you thought you wanted to attain. You keep also striving for more and more. So how this shows up for some people is also this feeling and idea that they're never good enough until, you get that next degree, that next certification, that next training. And so you get kind of stuck in this loop of having to just get one more thing, one more training, one more education before you can do the thing that you truly want to do. And of course, it's very stressful because you're just never going to be good enough. And there's always going to be one more course and one more training and one more certification and, fill in the blank. Because I've certainly fallen prey to that one as well over my life. And, if you also hear yourself saying things along the lines of, oh, it's just too hard to get this done. I'm never going to amount to anything. That is also a sign that, this is probably fairly high, a high risk for you. All right, the tension scale as well. Let's look at the tension scale. So this one has a lot to do with how easy it is for you to relax. So are you able to just, take time for yourself? Stop, close the laptop, end your work day, whatever time, 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, and just take time for yourself. Are you able to relax on the weekends? What about when you actually go on vacation? Are you relaxing? Are you enjoying your time? Or do you always have this feeling that you should be doing something or you should be doing more? Do you not take breaks during the day? Do you not take your lunch? These are also signs that, you're operating under this, this warning sign here of tension. I also, there was a time as well in my life where I felt like I always had to be doing something. Even on the weekend, if I wasn't doing something, then there was something wrong. So I can recognize that that idea and that belief that we need to be productive. And we kind of live in a society that has taught us that. And over the years, more and more people recognize, work-life balance is important. And I do a lot of teaching on that because I think that we need to create a life that supports our values and is sustainable for the things that we want to do. So leisure time on the weekends, if you're like thinking, what is leisure time? Then this one is one of your warning signs as well. So I believe that's 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe there's one more. Yes, I thought so. So at the far end of the scale, right, burnout. So if you are already in burnout, you are in the danger zone of this stress-o-meter here. And burnout is the degree to which you no longer enjoy your life, you're satisfied with your life, you feel sad, you feel what's the point, you're just generally unhappy. There are, people that do the same thing day in and day out, and that can create burnout. But for many people, burnout happens because they didn't pay attention to their stress signs and symptoms early on. Right. Again, there's that flashing light on the dashboard. And you're like, no, it's okay. I'll wait to fill up, but I want to get, to the next gas station, or it's okay. Uh, I'm sure my car will be fine without, checking the oil, whatever it is, right? That analogy, but you just ignore the signs and the symptoms and they don't go away. They get worse and they get worse. And then you get to where you get to a point where the strategies and the tips and the things that would have helped you early on no longer work. You just can't, take a weekend off and recover from burnout. It requires, much more intense uh, uh, self-care practices, strategies. It may even include some kind of medical or therapeutic intervention. But there are signs and symptoms leading up to burnout. So it is very, very important to pay attention to those things. But generally speaking, right, you could look at burnout from the furthest end on the stress scale. But it could also just come from doing something that you just don't like doing, or it doesn't support your values, and you're just tired of doing it. You're literally burned out of doing that particular thing. So let's review. And again, these are 7 different signs, scales that we test on to see where Do you need to pay more attention in your life to the risk factors that could be contributing to stress, or could be reasons why you could be at a higher stressed level? So anger and hostility, again, if that's the kind of that personality that you have, if you're more quick to anger, if you're always rushing around, that time urgency, if everything has to be perfect, I have to do it all, perfectionism. If I'm just generally unhappy with how things are turning out, disappointment. If I'm constantly chasing the next certification or degree, or just feeling like just things are just so hard to, do, that's underachievement. The tension is, once again, just feeling that, I just can't relax. So I'm constantly busy. So inability to relax, take time off for yourself. And then, of course, the burnout factor. Okay. So what do we do about all of this? Well, let's talk about it. So, as I said, one of the things that I do as a stress relief expert is I help people create sustainable self-care practices. But I need to assess, where is their stress coming from, right? What are their triggers? What are their risk factors? And what kind of plan would support them? And I am a stress master licensed independent associate, as it says there. Stress Master International was founded by Jim Peterson through a grant that he has with the National Institute of Health. Actually, let me just make sure I'm quoting that exactly correctly. Um, yes, National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health. There we go. And it provides a framework for people to be able to identify, what areas that they're at a high risk for, right? The anger, hostility, the time urgency, tension, burnout, the things that we just talked about. And in addition to looking at those 7 different areas, I also implement and have you look at what events have occurred in your life, the life event scale. Things, that happened within the past year and things that you're planning or anticipating in the next 6 months. Because a lot of the stress that we experience has to do with how I'm processing all these life events. So if I went through a divorce, or I moved, or there's been a change in leadership at my organization, or I'm planning on moving or having a baby, right? These are all major life events. And so the scale is from the most major, from the death of a loved one, all the way to the most minor, and it's basically on a scale of 1 to 100. So we assess where you are there. And then we just look at the day-to-day hassles, right? Traffic being one, um, you know, taking care of, juggling many different responsibilities, you know, high costs of living, for example, different things that hassle one person might not hassle another. So we just look at the things that you consider to be those daily hassles. And then how is it showing up in your life, right? The physical, emotional effects of stress. So we go through this process, we take a look at all of that, and I'll explain what you get after you go through the assessment in just a moment. Uh, but let me give you a few tools on our session today. So when I work with people, as I said, I like to give you as many different tools to put in your toolkit. And you can build multiple toolkits. I'm thinking of the garage, and my husband's got, gosh, I think he's got 5 different toolkits of all different sizes and shapes, and they're specifically for different types of tools. So we have what's called body mastery tools. What are we pulling from that toolkit? The 3 pillars of diet, exercise, and sleep fall into the body mastery. But, doing massage and yoga and things that are nurturing to our bodies also fall into that. Then we have another toolkit for what's called mental mastery. So how do I support my cognitive health? Things like meditation, working on creative projects, anything that's not related to my job or my career that I can just get lost in. Just being out in nature falls into that category as well. And also learning how to rethink those stressors. Remember, I said it's not the event, it's how I think about it and the stories that I tell myself. So what are the tools that we can use to help us reframe those? And then the last one we look at is what's called stressor mastery. And in this toolkit, what we're doing is looking at the things that we have control over. Because it doesn't make any sense to stress about something that I have no control over. And I finally got that when it came to the traffic. I finally got that when it came to other things that I was stressing about, like the weather. I have no control over that. So why would I want to spend my time stressing about those things? So we focus on what is in your locus of control, how to set better boundaries, for example, how to change my mindset about things that create stress. So we cover all these different things in the program when you work with me. I'm calling it a program because it's about a 3-month program. But I do want to give you a couple of tools. This is really bright. But that's the point. That's the point, right? A stoplight is red and many times it flashes red before it stops completely, or a stop sign, red. It's to get your attention. So the stop is also an acronym. So what does it mean? So the S is to remind you when you're in that high stress state that you need to stop. So you can literally, no matter where you are, just kind of visualize yourself hitting a pause button. So you're stopping. The T stands for 2 different things. It's to take a break. And on that break, it could be take a breath. And I'm going to do a breathing exercise with you in just a moment. So stop, take a break. The O is a mindful activity. It means to observe. So I want to get out of my worried head and I'm just going to drop into my body and I'm just going to observe sensations. So it could be just observing your heartbeat. And it's interesting when you observe it, especially when you're stressed, you can literally slow your heart rate down. I could just observe like, oh, I'm observing there's tension in my shoulders. And just by observing it and focusing on it, I can literally release the tension and allow that muscle to relax. So I'm going to do that with my O, and then the P is reminding me to pause until the light turns green, right? Or it's clear to go if I'm at a stop sign. And how do I know that? Well, I feel more calm. So it could take 30 seconds, could take a minute, could take 5, could take 10. But to remember when you start noticing and be more aware of those stress signs or the stress state that you're in, that you can always hit the stop. You can always hit the pause button and do a stop exercise. And you can stop stress from escalating by practicing this. So let's do a really simple, very simple breathing exercise. And so I'm just going to play some music. To just take a moment. We're just going to do a minute. Get comfortable in your seat. Go ahead and close your eyes if that's comfortable. If not, just have a soft focus downward. You can rest your hands on your lap or wherever is comfortable. And just start with just 2 simple breaths. Just breathe. Just breathe. Just allow your shoulders to drop. Let your forehead soften. Release all the tension you're holding in your jaw. And just allow yourself just to be. And take a nice, long, slow, deep breath in. And hold. And very slowly release. And just continue breathing deeply, focusing on the sensation of the air going in and out your nose. And with each breath, just feel yourself sinking a little bit deeper into your seat, letting your shoulders just continue to drop further down. Feel yourself just a little bit heavier, a little bit more relaxed. Observing the sensations in your body. And if your mind wanders, it's okay. Just gently bring it back to the breath. Breathing easily, but deeply. You can even start at the top of your head and just scan your body for tension as you breathe in. And on your exhalation, just focus your intention on that area as you exhale. perhaps you notice some tension in your forehead or your upper back. Or maybe you're even holding tension in your fists. To gently open up your hands, allow the tension to just melt away. And just working down the body. Wherever you find tension, just let it go. And just as if you're stopped, right, at the stoplight or that stop sign, as you're feeling more and more relaxed, whenever you're ready, you can start to bring it to completion. So we'll take one more nice, long, slow, deep breath in and release. And very gently and easily and effortlessly, just bring your focus and your awareness back to this present moment, wiggling your fingers and your toes. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the music. And if you want to bring your energy back up, just take one more deep breath in, bringing your arms up overhead. Oh, nice big stretch, right? That also feels so good. Stretching is one of my favorite ways too to relieve tension. It builds up in our bodies. And so just release that out. Oh, let it go. It's a very simple practice that you can do, right? At a stop sign, stop light, pause in the middle of your day. As a matter of fact, pause multiple times throughout your day. I recommend at least once an hour, once every 90 minutes at the max. Get up and take a short 1 minute, 5 minute, 10-minute break. I have to say that these are so important to help, manage, minimize, cope with, and also to prevent burnout. So you definitely want to be taking those breaks throughout the day. So let me tell you a little bit more about the Stress Mastery Program. So as I said, it is personalized to you. You will go through the assessment. We're going to look at those different scales, right? The anger, the tension, the perfectionism, time urgency. And you will receive back a 19-page detailed assessment report. Don't get scared by that, because I will go through the report with you, line by line if you want, but we will go through the whole report and look at where you're at a higher risk for stress, what life events, what are your daily hassles look like, so that we can put together a specific customized stress relief plan for you. It's not enough to cope with stress. There really is a better way to live than trying to cope. So we're going to put together a map for you. I call it, it's actually a stress mastery guide. It's a roadmap to resilience. It's a roadmap to resilience. And resilience is that factor, that muscle even, because we can build resiliency. How can we bounce back better from stressors in our lives? And so we'll set up weekly sessions. They're 30-minute sessions. We get right into, what we're working on together, so that, it's a really targeted and focused time with each other, so to help you overcome your risk factors and to create that sustainable self-care practice. And the whole program is 90 days. You could just do the assessment if you want. I do sell them separately, but I don't recommend that, because what I found is that many people look at the assessment and, number one, not sure how to interpret it, or number two, it could be overwhelming and you don't know what to do with that information. So if you're here today, if you're watching this, that means that you want a better way of living your life. You do not want to live a stressed life anymore. And so you're looking for the best tools, the best strategies, the best programs. And I'm a firm believer in creating something that is sustainable, because anyone, can go on like a weight loss plan and lose weight, but can you keep it off? Right? Anyone can create, be successful in attaining one goal, but you know how to replicate that so that whatever goals you set for yourself, you can achieve, right? Are the things you're doing sustainable? So that's what we focus on. And you get email and text support from me during that program as well. And like I said, it is customized to you. So you're not in a group session with other people. We may have a group coaching class or group coaching session that you can jump in if you want to, but our sessions are tailored specifically to you, and so we meet once a week. So let's talk about some of the different, questions that come up about it. So, what makes this program different from other things? What makes this program even different from other programs that I deliver? Well, it's really unique because it's based on your assessment. And it's based on the report that I get that says, what are the areas that are creating stress for you? There's so many tools out there and great tools out there, but they might not be the best tool for you. So better to have a program that specifically focuses on what you need. What do you need to lower your stress levels? What do you need to overcome the challenges? What do you need to build resiliency and become a stress master? And that's really what it's about. And there's a difference between coping. Coping basically says that this isn't going to get any better, right? This is just the way it is, and I just got to cope with it. Right? Well, nobody wants that. Then the next thing is, well, all right, this is what it is. How am I going to manage this, right? Okay, I can deal with it, right? It's like that power through. I can manage this. There's also a better way. There's how do I master my mind? How do I master my physical, emotional, and mental state so that I no longer am dealing with the classic stress signs and symptoms? I know what the triggers are. I know how to think about things differently so that I can use stress to my advantage. And what I mean by that is, your body does release adrenaline and cortisol to prepare you to handle something. And so we harness that. We take full advantage of that to get that deadline done, to handle, that car that stops suddenly in front of you. But we have the tools to very quickly bring ourselves back to a relaxed state. And doing that breathing exercise is one. So we become masters. That's the key. And so how do you become, what makes a good stress master? Like I said, you have to know what triggers you, right? You have to have a very high awareness or build awareness to the stress signs and symptoms as they're happening in the moment. That's the key. Can you feel your heart rate? Can you feel yourself starting to get irritable? Right? In the moment, do you recognize that it's time to hit the pause button? Do you have practices in place that you can go to, right? Do you have a good self-care routine, morning, midday, evening, night, right? Are they sustainable? That's what makes a good stress master, right? And how do you measure success? Well, we look at it a few different ways that we do that with each other. So obviously you can just say on a scale of 1 to 10, how do I feel, before the program, midway, and at the end? You can also set particular goals for yourself. So let's say you're dealing with time urgency. So we can, set a goal that says, at the end of the program, I want to be in a place where I'm no longer late for meetings, for example. So we could set very specific goals that you can measure. So it's a version of creating a SMART goal, right? Which is specific, it's measurable, it is action oriented, and it's achievable. It's relevant to your life. And T is that it has a time frame. So we'll work on things that we can accomplish in 90 days or beyond. Many people continue working with me after they've completed this program. And I've been working with a number of leaders for actually going on 2 or 3 years, one even 4 years, because every week we come together, or every other week we come together and we work on different areas. So is it sustainable? Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the key. I've been in many other programs myself, right? Got into shape, lost weight, achieved this goal, did that, and it was wonderful. But I didn't have the tools after the program ended to keep it up. And I think that's the piece that's missing for a lot of folks, is how do I sustain this practice so that I can support myself? My intention is not for you to work with me forever. My intention is to give you the tools that you can sustain yourself. But just like anything else in life, we find that when we have somebody to hold ourselves accountable, someone who is like our cheerleader, who can support us, we want to continue working with that person. So whether it's me, somebody else, your best friend, your husband, your parent, whoever it is, I think we are more successful in life, generally speaking, when we have a good support network. So I'd love to help you with that and help you build that. So I do have a special that I wanted to share with you. The program is $12.97, and that's for the 90-day program. It includes the assessments that you do, that 19-page detailed report, one-on-one weekly coaching with me. And I will tell you that my clients pay a lot of money to work with me one-on-one without the Stress Mastery. So you can either pay in full, or you can just do a monthly program, $4.95 for the month. But what I want to offer everyone is, if you watch this webinar, whether it was live or you watch the recording, that I am offering 50% off the program because you took the time to watch the webinar. And I will provide you with a link in just a moment in the chat that will get you to where you can sign up for the program, and you would just input the code, which is webinar. Made it super simple, right? Coupon code webinar. And the last thing is, if you'd like to do this at some point, doesn't have to be right now, but down the road, but what's holding you back is, I don't have the money, or I don't want to put it on my credit card, or, you know, whatever it is. Like I've said, I've been there before for programs that were 10 times this amount. So there is financing available. So I can help you connect you with a program that you can, you know, do this program and finance it. And that's just for the full amount. So obviously that would be, you know, if you are not taking advantage of the 50% off, but down the road you say, you know what, I still want to do this. So what I would encourage everyone to do, and let me just drop this into the chat as well, is to schedule a call with me to learn a little bit more about the program, to see if it's a good fit. I think that's really important. You know, or you can just jump right in if you know this is for you, and schedule that. So let me just get to the link. I thought I had it right here in front of me so that I can drop into the chat for you. So while I'm doing that, I know most folks are watching this as a recording. So I was going to ask for questions, but there wouldn't be any questions. So let me give you the Stripe, and I will drop that into the chat. And remember, the code, the coupon code is webinar. And I don't know if it needs to be all caps or not. So if it doesn't work in caps, you can just do it lower. And once again, if you want to schedule a call with me, which I do recommend, and, you know, we may decide that, you know what, this might not be the right program or the best program for you right now, but maybe you want to just work on some other things in a coaching capacity. So, and then, you know, we can certainly talk about that. All right. Well, that was my stress relief tips today. Again, you don't have to cope with stress. You don't even have to manage your stress. You can learn how to master it. And I hope that you will consider that for yourself. Schedule a call with me, or if you know this is for you, go ahead and sign up today. Take full advantage of that 50% off. And I look forward to working with you. Have a great day, everyone. Take care. Take care.